So in that chaotic last Grand Prix at Abu Dhabi, all of the regulations seemed to go out of the window. Latifi crashed and sparked it all with only 4 laps to go. The race director, Michael Masi, made some odd decisions, but did he break his own rules? Well, Mercedes predictably say yes, and Red Bull predictably say no. So let's go over the rules as well as the arguments from both sides. Let's go. So as we know, on lap 54 out of 58, Latifi stuck it in the wall, meaning that at least 2 or 3 laps of safety car was needed to clear up both the Williams and its barge boards that were scattered all over the track. So at this point, Lewis couldn't pit for fear of losing track position to Max and then the race not getting started again. That would have been a real blunder. Imagine. So Lewis stayed out and Red Bull, for obvious reasons, tried something different and boxed Max for some softs. However, half the field didn't follow Max in, leaving Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel, who passed, putting themselves between Hamilton and Verstappen. And so Michael Masi, the race director, has a few choices. Either red flag the race, meaning that order would be restored, everyone could change tyres and there would be a fair 1v1 4-lap battle for the championship. Even so, Masi would have had to call this straight away, and it would have been an unusual call when neither driver nor the barrier looked to be damaged. Option 2 would be to finish the race under the safety car, which understandably they didn't want to do. This was a definite possibility. Red Bull did take this risk when pitting Max. They didn't know if there would be any racing laps before finishing the race, and anyway, pitting didn't cost them any positions, so they gambled. Option 3 would be to keep the on-track order and create a 1-lap battle at the end. That is, once Latifi's mess had been cleared up. However, that would have put 5 back markers between Lewis and Max, and who knows if he could have made it through them, although that would have seen some of the best lunges from Verstappen. Or option 4 would be to wave all the back markers through and take the risk that this process would take too long, leaving no time for actual racing at the end of the laps. It's also worth noting that Masi couldn't add on extra laps, as this isn't in the rules, and the cars would have run out of fuel. He also took so long to decide that it ruled out the option of the red flag. But really, Michael Masi didn't take any of these options. He took the hidden option number 5, only letting the lapped cars between Lewis and Max go through, and not the other lapped cars behind Verstappen. During the incident, Horner, the Red Bull boss, got on the radio to Michael Masi saying, "Why aren't we getting these lapped cars out of the way?" Which of course, as a dedicated team principal, he's going to do. So Horner yells one thing, then Wolff yells the opposite. And I have to question why they have a direct line to the race director. Anyway, only waving through half of them did mean they had 1 lap left for racing at the end, even if it did break the rules. But after that, Masi immediately brought in the safety car, which could also be against those rules. So let's take a look at the wording, because it does matter. First of all, Michael may not have been able to call a red flag. The sporting regulations say if the clerk of the course deems circumstances are such that the track cannot be negotiated safely, even behind the safety car, the race will be suspended. However, there is no clear statement on the minimum disruption needed to call a red flag. The majority of the confusion came from the safety car though. According to Mercedes, Masi made 2 main mistakes. The first is about only letting half of the lapped cars through. The regulations say any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. Then they said the safety car was pulled in too early, as it came in on the same lap that the lapped drivers were waved through. For this, the regulations say once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. And obviously, they broke this rule. But Red Bull obviously had their arguments too. They said that the word any does not necessarily mean all, which I kinda get, but then we are into the grey area of the wording, which, to be fair to both parties, is ambiguous at best. But their main argument is about point 15.3, which says, if you all want to turn to page 11, the race director will have overriding authority over the use of the safety car, essentially saying that Michael Masi can break his own rules, as it says so in his own rules. Very confusing. But Red Bull then followed this up and say that even if all the cars had been able to unlap themselves, it wouldn't have had any effect on the outcome of the race. And I'm not so sure that this is true, as they most likely would have run out of laps. But who knows for sure. But here's the crux of it. What's the point in having an extensive rule book if the race director can just ignore it? This makes it more of a set of guidelines than hard and fast rules. Red Bull made the decision to pit based on the rules, and Mercedes stayed out based on the same rules, only for Masi to throw them out the window. And in my eye, that's just not on. But since the race, people have dug up previous incidents. At the Eiffel Grand Prix in 2020, the one that Hulkenberg super subbed in, yep, that one, Michael Masi directly said there's a requirement in the sporting regulations to wave all lapped cars past. And that's why the safety car period was a bit longer than we would have normally expected. And it looks like a clear-cut contradiction. And really, that tells a story. It seems that these things are up for interpretation, and that shouldn't be the case. They need clearing up and wording better so that officials can make quick calls that are backed by regulations. So what's happened since? Well, Michael Masi came back in this hearing and said that the letting go of the lapped cars was only there so that they didn't affect the racing. And this is because the whole point of letting lap cars through is so they don't get in the way of the racing. So in Masi's opinion, only letting the ones between Max and Lewis through made sense. Then the important bit. Apparently there's been a long-standing agreement between all of the teams that Formula One racing, where possible, would be settled under green flag conditions. And that's why Michael kind of bent the rules. So Mercedes' protest has been dismissed, but all of the teams have the right to review, and that's what Mercedes are doing. They have been remarkably quiet so far, making it look like they are planning a pretty strong case. And if this appeal does happen, it gets passed on to the ICA, the International Court of Appeal. It's essentially a court that settles disputes in motorsport, made up of 36 elected judges who essentially police the officials in all of FIA racing. This has happened a few times recently. Haas appealed Grosjean's penalty for an illegal flaw in Monza and failed, and Kimi and Antonio's penalties in the 2019 German Grand Prix, and they also failed. But they all took months to be resolved, and they were much smaller issues than this, so it's not over yet. And really, it's understandable that now the FIA are considering cutting the direct communication between the race director and the teams, which in my eye makes sense. When in the Champions League do you see managers running out onto the pitch and telling the ref what to do? Anyway, what do you think will happen? Thanks very much for watching. Check out these other videos which I think you'll love, and I'll catch you in the next one.